My name is Celeste Rowan, and for the first 4 years of my marriage, I believed Thanksgiving was the one day when my husband's family truly felt like my family too. Every year, my mother-in-law Nadine hosted Thanksgiving at her house. There was always too much food, too many decorations, too many people talking at the same time. And somehow every year Nadine managed to make the entire house smell like cinnamon, roasted turkey and freshly baked bread. I loved it. Not because everything was perfect. It wasn't. Nadine and I had never been especially close. She was polite to me, but I always felt like she was evaluating me, the way I dressed, the way I cooked, the way I spoke to her son, but I never made an issue of it. My husband, Everett, always told me the same thing. Mom just takes time to warm up to people. So I gave her time. I didn't force a relationship. I didn't argue with her. And I certainly never tried to compete with her for Everett's attention. Then came Thanksgiving. 3 weeks before the holiday, Nadine called me. Celeste, I need to ask you something. Sure, this year is going to be different. I smiled. How so? My sister is coming. That's wonderful. My cousins. Even better. She hesitated. There's going to be a lot of people. I waited, then she said, so I think it would be better if you stayed home this year. I thought I had misunderstood her. Stayed home? Yes, she spoke as though she were asking me to move a chair. It's just family. I looked around my living room. I was married to her son. What did she think I was? But I kept my voice calm. I see. Everett can come alone. I swallowed. Does Everett know about this? No, that answer hurt more than anything else. Why not? Because I didn't want to put him in an awkward position. I almost laughed. You mean you didn't want him to disagree with you? She became quiet. Then she said, Celeste, please don't make this dramatic. Stared at the wall. I won't. Thank you. The call ended. I sat there for a long time. I didn't cry, not immediately. Instead, I felt something inside me become very still. I had spent 4 Thanksgivings helping Nadine prepare her house. I had brought desserts. I had helped clean the kitchen. I had stayed late washing dishes while everyone else sat around the living room, and now, I wasn't family, apparently. When Everett came home that evening, I didn't say anything. He walked into the kitchen. Hey, he kissed my forehead. How was your day? Fine. He opened the refrigerator, then he looked at me. Something happened. I smiled. Why, you're quiet. I'm tired. He didn't believe me, but he didn't push. The next morning I received a group message. It was from Nadine. She was confirming Thanksgiving plans. Everyone was included. Everett, his sister, his cousins, his aunt, his uncle. Even a distant relative I'd met only once. Everyone. Except me. I stared at the message, then I noticed something even worse. Nadine had written, can't wait to have everyone together. I put my phone down. I didn't respond. Thanksgiving morning arrived. Everett woke up early. He was excited. He had no idea what was happening. He got dressed, then he walked into the kitchen. Aren't you coming? I looked at him. Coming where? He laughed. Mom's house. I took a breath. Your mother told me not to come. Stopped. Repeated what Nadine had said. He stared at me. She told you to stay home. Yes. Why? I don't know. She say anything else? She said it was just family. His face changed. She actually said that. I nodded. Everett picked up his phone. He called his mother. She answered immediately. Hi, sweetheart. His voice was cold. Why isn't Celeste coming? There was a pause. I could hear only Everett's side of the conversation. Then he said, that wasn't your decision to make. Another pause. He looked at me, then he said, no. He hung up. I stared at him. What did she say? He shook his head. She said she thought you didn't want to come. I laughed. Never said that. I know. He sat beside me. Not staying here alone. I looked at him. What are you going to do? I'm going to Mom's. I thought he was going to leave. Instead, he picked up his coat. Then he said, I'm going to ask her why my wife wasn't invited. He drove away. I stayed home for the first time in 4 years. Thanksgiving was silent. No crowded kitchen, no loud relatives, no laughter, no smell of turkey, just me, and a television playing quietly in the background. Around noon, my phone rang. It was Everett. Where are you? I'm outside Mom's house. Why? Because something isn't right. I sat up. What happened? I walked inside. He paused. Mom had everyone's place cards arranged on the table. Kay, your name wasn't there. I swallowed. What else? She had prepared a special dessert. I didn't understand. What does that have to do with me? Because the dessert had your name written on it. I was confused. What? That's what I don't understand. Then Everett lowered his voice. Mom is hiding something. Stood up. What do you mean? I don't know yet. Before he could say anything else, someone called his name in the background. He said, I have to go. Everett. Home, please. Call you. He hung up. I spent the next 2 hours wondering what he had discovered. Then he called again. Celeste, yes, I need you to come here. I froze. Your mother told me not to. I know. Then why are you asking me? Because I finally know why. I drove to Nadine's house. When I arrived, the driveway was full of cars. I walked inside. The house was packed, but the atmosphere felt strange. Everyone was quiet. Everett came toward me. He took my hand. I'm sorry. What? For believing Mom's explanation for even 5 minutes. I looked at him. What happened? He led me toward the kitchen. Nadine was standing there. She looked nervous. When she saw me, she lowered her eyes. Everett turned toward her. Tell her, Nadine didn't speak. Mom, she finally whispered, I didn't want you here because I was embarrassed. I frowned. Embarrassed about what? She looked at me, then she said, I thought you would find out. Find out what? She pointed toward the dining room. On the table was a large envelope. My name was written on it. I walked closer. I opened it. Inside were several documents. Property records, bank statements, and an old legal agreement. I looked at Nadine. What is this? She took a breath. Your father-in-law left something behind. I didn't understand. Your husband never knew about it. What? Nadine explained. Years before I met Everett, his father had purchased a small property. The property had eventually been sold, but part of the money had been placed into a family trust. Nadine had been managing the trust for years. She had never told Everett. And recently, she had discovered that the trust was legally supposed to include Everett's spouse after marriage. Me, I stared at the documents. So you didn't invite me because of this? She nodded. I was afraid. Afraid of what? That you would think I had hidden it from you. You did. She looked down. I know. Everett was furious. You excluded my wife from Thanksgiving because you were afraid she'd find out about money. Nadine began crying. I didn't know how to tell you. Everett shook his head. You could have told us the truth. I was ashamed. I looked at Nadine. For years I had assumed she didn't like me. I had assumed she thought I wasn't good enough for her son, but suddenly, I realized something. She wasn't trying to replace me with someone else. She was hiding something. And she had allowed her fear to turn into cruelty. I handed the documents back. I don't want this. Nadine looked shocked. What? I don't want money that comes with resentment. Everett looked at me. Celeste, I continued. If this belongs to Everett, give it to him. Nadine shook her head. No. Why? Because your father-in-law wanted it to help the family. I looked at her. Then use it to help the family. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. Nadine stood in front of everyone. Apologized not just to me, to Everett, to the entire family. She admitted that she had been afraid of losing control over the family finances. She admitted that she had kept secrets, and she admitted that excluding me from Thanksgiving had been wrong. Then she looked directly at me. Sorry. I didn't immediately forgive her. Instead, I said, I accept your apology. She nodded, but trust takes time. I understand. Rest of Thanksgiving was uncomfortable at first, then something changed. Everett's aunt started talking about an old family story. His cousins began laughing, someone brought out the dessert, and eventually, the room felt normal again. Nadine came to me quietly. Would you like some pie? I smiled. Yes. She handed me a plate, then she said, your name was supposed to be on the place card. I looked at her. What happened to it? She smiled sadly. I never made one. I laughed softly. Then next year, she nodded. Next year I'll make two. One for you. She paused, and one to remind myself that you belong here. I hugged her, not because everything was suddenly perfect. It wasn't, but because sometimes people make terrible choices when they're afraid, and sometimes they deserve the chance to make a better one. That Thanksgiving taught me something I'll never forget. Being family isn't about being invited to every table. It's about being respected when you sit at one. Nadine had tried to make me feel like an outsider, but in the end, her own son was the one who stood up and asked the question she never expected. Why is my wife missing? And that question changed everything, because sometimes you don't realize how important someone is until their empty chair is the only thing everyone notices.